when you are a barrister, you don't have a contract with anyone. So you don't, basically, if you're going to get paid by the client, you don't deal with money because it's trade. That's down there somewhere, it's trade. So this thing is designed to wrap around a little pouch of money which the solicitor, or through the client, would actually wrap on the back of your robe as payment for the work done. That's what that is. So we still have that little thing there. Basically, you can imagine a money bag, you tie it up, and that's at the back. So, because you don't deal as a barrister with money, because you're above that. We have the intellectual grasp of the law, you see. So we're above all of that, believe it or not. But when we get down to it, we're starting to deal with some pretty difficult people. And as I said about criminal jurisdiction, this sort of outfit is quite helpful because I do look different. Clearly, I'm not quite as easy to identify. If I take that off and if I just had a coat on, we normally are advised to dress down, certainly the judges do. Most of us dress down because if we're walking around like this in the street, people start looking at you. So you can imagine that the problem is, in some courts, you're actually wandering around in this stuff because you've got to go from one building to another and you can't change and get out of the stuff. So, Aylesbury Crown Court's a good example where to get in you've got to go through different, you actually want to walk into the street. So we're going to take a photograph of you, a bit of fun. And of course it's dressing up. Don't we all like dressing up? No, we don't. But in the end of the day, we do. A bit like being in the army actually. Most of my army career, I've never wore a uniform. I had a green beret and I had a standard dress for particular occasions, but generally didn't. If you're a police officer, if you're in uniform, you wear the old natty old bill outfit, as we call it, the blue tunic. And if you're in CID, criminal investigation, you don't, you wear plain clothes. So you see, it can be different. But in this day and age, we are very much wearing this type of robe. We're robing up when it's criminal. Now let's just talk about some of the courts. I mentioned England and Wales. Most of what I've said is about England and Wales because in the United Kingdom, the vast bulk of the United Kingdom is England, 68 million, whatever it is, 58 million. The rest of it, about 4 million in Scotland. Not that many in Wales, not that many in Northern Ireland. So the vast bulk of the population is in England. However, we do have Scotland, and that's the Scottish courts and tribunal service. Different jurisdiction, different names for courts. The magistrates' court is called the sheriff's court and so forth, and the Crown Court is the High Court, and they have the inner and the outer courts. They have appeals as well on the basic level with the Court of Appeal, but the final decision goes up to the Supreme Court of the United Kingdom. And the Scottish system is based on Roman law, not on English law, so there is an inquisitorial procedure. The police there are, the Crown Prosecution Service equivalent is the Procurator Fiscal, and he carries out an inquiry, as they do, for instance, in France, where they will, and in Holland, where there's a magistrate who will inquire about what's going on, rather than an accusatorial system where defendant is accused and then the prosecution's job, beyond a reasonable doubt, is to prove, the burden being on the prosecution to prove he did it on the evidence. Now, Northern Ireland, you can see there's a link there if you're interested. It's a relatively small bar in Northern Ireland. It's important at the moment because of Brexit, because you can, if you are a member of the Northern Ireland bar, I'm not, I'm a member of the Bar of England and Wales, I would automatically become a member of the Irish bar, that is the Irish Free State, ERA, whatever you call it, that's the Irish Republic. I can join, I've thought about it, and I'm waiting to see what happens with Brexit first, but I may well join the Irish bar as well, because they have a system similar to our system, based in Dublin. It's called King's Inns, it's similar to the Four Inns of Court. I'm a member of one of the Four Inns of Court called Lincoln's Inn. There are three others: Gray's Inn, Inner Temple, and Middle Temple. Those are the Four Inns of Court. There's one in Ireland called the King's Inns in Dublin. The Inns of Court are very, very old. They eventually go back all the way through to the Middle Ages and earlier. Lincoln's Inn being the oldest on record, where our record started about the 1400s. And of course our old hall is a medieval hall. And the Great Hall, which is that huge one that's just been redeveloped, is Victorian. The Queen reopened it again a few months ago. Northern Ireland, though, is a separate jurisdiction again, very much part of what they do, both in criminal and civil jurisdictions. But again, after they dispense justice at the lower levels, they will then go up to the Supreme Court. Now, this is the CJEU, the Court of Justice of the European Union. Primarily it was what was known European Court of Justice, but it's now called CJEU. And as I said, I've changed the dates because I think the date I had last time was March. But at the moment we are looking to leave with Brexit in October, Halloween. When we do or not, I don't know. I mean, you probably will be seeing in the newspapers that Boris Johnson has said we're going, deal or no deal, we're going. Mr Hunt has said no. What will happen is it may be we may continue it a bit longer. Mr Gove, who lost out on the leadership, he was talking about going in 2020. But with what's going on in Europe as well, if you saw the newspapers last night, television last night, Mrs May was in Europe last night. She went to Japan for the G20, and last night she was in Brussels because all the people she's been dealing with for British exit from the European Union are retiring. So the European Union had a meeting last night to determine who is taking over from Jean-Claude Juncker, Donald Tusk, and various other people. Some of the negotiating team are staying, but Tusk and Juncker are both retiring, and they therefore got to find new people to fill those slots. That means that we may not actually exit on the 31st of October. If we do, there's an awful lot to do. And in fact, in the White Book, which I'll talk about in a minute, it actually deals specifically with Brexit because there are some very serious issues that have to be dealt with. What we've been having at the moment, if you can think about it in a wider concept, you've got our system in England and Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland. You've then got all the member states' laws within the 28 countries in the EU. And what we've been trying to do, which I've been in favour of, is bringing the laws into some sort of cohesive agreement so that there is a standard approach to things like extradition in criminal proceedings and in fact in civil proceedings. But to try and have, in company law, to try and have a unified, simplified, standardised approach, which I think is sensible. Some people don't. But I can see that that's the long-term way in which the concept of laws will develop, because clearly the United States has the common law tradition, you've developed it on a state-by-state basis, and then you have the federal system. Australia is the same, where you've got the same position in Australia. Canada, of course, doesn't have states, it has provinces, and as I mentioned to Robert earlier, one of the interesting things in Canada is British Columbia. It's the only province in the world that has a fully functioning online court system. Now, my wife and I are going to go over to Vancouver and have a chat with the Attorney General at some stage just to see how the online courts are going, because we are bringing them in here. The problem is, we were meant to have brought them in a year ago. So I went to see the government minister at the time, Minister of State in the Department for Justice, interviewed him, a man called Phillip. I forgot his first name, I remember the name. He was the Minister of State in the Department for Justice. I saw him, a week later he was sacked, and a new person came in, and we've had 2 new people since then, all of whom have been given the online courts portfolio, and nothing much is being done. Mr. Justice Burse, Colin Burse, who I went to bar school with, he's now a High Court Judge, Chancery Division, he is now in charge of bringing the online courts in. He's a techie, self-confessed techie is Colin. He's trying very hard to get agreement from people, and we've got what we're going to have. This and the other one to go with it. These are the procedure rules for the civil courts. We are going to have, in addition to that, civil procedure rules for the online courts, which will be a much smaller document. As you can see, this is just 2 of them. There are 4 volumes in total. There's a funding, this is the costs regime. But you can get an idea immediately. As soon as these books come out, amendments come in because so much has changed. So these are the books we use. This is the book we use in the family division, which is called the Red Book. It's the family court practice. Again, it has the procedure rules, and it has, in addition, all the legislation that's relevant. And one other book I've got, because I haven't brought the criminal procedurals called Archibald, what I have got is something called the Secret Barrister. Has anybody heard of the Secret Barrister? No? Well, I'm going to tell you a bit about it. You probably gather that what we do, we're meant to keep quiet about. We're not meant to be overtly critical, certainly in public, of what the way we do things. Obviously, Parliament is critical. We've been critical about the ECJ, now the CJEU, and our membership of the European Union. The Secret Barrister broke that taboo. Now, he or she is an unknown person. We don't know who he or she is. He or she is turning up at the bar conference in November, and will be behind the screen, of course, and we'll be talking about, probably with, all sorts of funny things, so we don't know that it's a woman or a man. But he has produced this book, and it's a damning indictment of what is happening in the criminal justice system primarily. And it basically is just one long moan, tale of woe, but unfortunately, everything that's in there is what's happened to me and to most of my practitioner colleagues, in that we've had terrible problems with the administration of justice. Being sent to a different court, being given wrong information by the court service, bad behaviour of judges, everything. Everything you can imagine that will go wrong with a case is in there. And basically most of what the person who's written this book is talking about has happened certainly to me in my practice. And that doesn't say a great deal for what I said earlier about us having the greatest system the world has known. And my God, if you see the others, you realise why it's the best.
So just to be clear, the book is a tell-all and breaks all these conventions about privacy, but the book is not inaccurate, is what you're saying.
No, that's correct. And in fact, it's put the fear of God into the judiciary, members of the bar, senior level, and the politicians.
So how did that book come about? No one knows who published that? Or
we know who published it.
Oh.
Macmillan. It's been at the top of the bestsellers. It's published by Macmillan. You can see Stories of the Law and How It Is Broken. This is the hardback version. It's now in paperback. It went straight to the top of the bestsellers list. It sold a very large number of copies. It's outside what is normal for these publications, which are very, very limited. I mean, the white book costs £1,000. That costs £600, the red book. This is 20 quid. But I mean, the practitioner books are very expensive because they're for a very small number of people. But I think they've sold about 100,000 copies of the Secret Barrister. It's had a big effect on the politicians because that person has spoken the unspoken. Because in the past, the reason they haven't is because of our system. Our system is that people like me wearing this stuff go from being barristers to senior barristers, that's Queen's Counsel, which I'm not, wear a slightly different robe, and slightly different, well, in fact, nothing different except for the robe. Then you go up to the judiciary level. And people who want a career, we have a career, we don't have a judicial career the way they do, say, in France, where you start off as a judge right at the beginning. We don't. We start off as normally as solicitors, or normally as barristers, some solicitors, but they want preferred, so they're not going to rock the boat. This one has. I'm very glad, yes.
Are you happy the book came out so
Yes.
people know? Yeah.
Delighted, and I love seeing when I've spoken to the Lord Chancellor, or several Lord Chancellors now, and several politicians, I love seeing them squirm. It's great, because it means we've got to them. My argument to them is sort it out. We are meant to have the best system in the world, to get it, make sure it is the best system in the world. I mean, you Yanks, you guys, wonderful people, got to the moon. Sorted the system out, then what you do, ignore it. But I mean, the point is that I'm making the big point. Everything you got from that Apollo program, which was brilliant, greatest thing Mary's ever done, greatest thing. From that, we've moved forward. We've got everything we've got today. It's based really, to a large extent, on what the program kicked out. Now, what I'm saying about the, if you like, parallel with our legal system, which is a funny little comparison, but think about it. We are meant to have the best system in the world. I think it's the best. I've seen the systems abroad, and I've been very unimpressed with some of them. The corruption is terrible. There is no corruption generally in our courts. Judges are not bent. They don't take money. They're not bribed. And we have a standard of decision making which is the envy of the world. I'll finish on that a little later because that will be wearing my mediation hat, because I'm an international mediator and this is the centre for it in London. I'll talk about that at the end, but the point is, and I did want to make that little point. Now, this is the Bible I mentioned to you. Sweet and Maxwell publish it. It's annual. It's 4 volumes. You've got 2 there. The other volumes are forms and various other procedural rules.